Meeting is called to order. I'm Joan Goodrich, and I chair this commission. We are District 8 Environmental Commission. Rick Kovic on my right from Shaftesbury, Ruth Botso from Pownell, and Warren Foster, who is the district coordinator, and through whom all documents, questions, materials flow. So we're here today to consider an application brought by JS LLC of Manchester, Vermont. The application number is 890627. And this is to redevelop a mixed-use project, residential and commercial, located on a 6.8-acre parcel at 3574 Route 11 in Peru, Vermont. Prior to this hearing, we conducted a site visit. So our job is to decide whether or not to grant an application or deny, and either to issue an application, issue a permit or deny a permit to this application. You collect evidence in this hearing, and the process is pretty formal. We usually follow the same format that other districts follow. People bring evidence to the hearing. They may choose to become a party. And there are different kinds of parties. A statutory party is one in which the state participates. So the Department of Historic Preservation or the Agency of Natural Resources are statutory parties. Town of Peru is a statutory party, as well as the Select Board. Adjoining neighbors, landowners, are also parties in this. If you are an adjoiner and you have an issue or a concern that conforms to the 10 criteria of Act 250, then you may you may have party status. And then we have friends of the commission, and those are people who are not necessarily adjoiners but have concerns that conform to the Act 250 criteria. So we'll go through the sign-up sheet that's circulating, and our commission will determine whether you have party status, and we'll swear people in, and then the applicant will go through the project and describe it to us, and we'll also go through the criteria, all 10 of them, one at a time, and you'll have questions, and we'll discuss those areas. And then, depending on what happens, we will then either issue a recess order or we'll reconvene at some later date. So did I forget anything, you guys? Any questions about the process? Yeah?
I have a question. I thought the hearing was noticed for 9:30. Was it?
Good, we need more time to get this technology.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can take a little 15-minute break. And if a lot more people come, I'll go through the spiel again.
We're going to here.
The neighbors are on.
Yes.
Okay.
Here.
If you're curious, the information on the file, the whole file is on this little stick, which is doing a Wi-Fi in this room. So if you're technologically astute and you have a personal device, you can also scroll through the plans and the exhibits. They're all being broadcast in this room right now. But don't ask me exactly how you get onto it. On this computer, which is a Dell laptop, I had to go down to the very little corner there where there's a little bar graph, and that's where all the different network connections are, and then I selected SanDisk, which is what this is. And now I'm trying to make the next step.
So we'll just take a 14-minute recess and stretch our legs and
Why is it a notice here?
we're going to restart this. We call the meeting to order. I'm not going to go through the whole spiel again. Just know that this is the commission. Ruth Botso, Rick Kovic, I'm Joan Goodrich. Warren Foster is our district coordinator. So I think what we first will do is have our statutory parties do their presentations. I know we have Elizabeth Peebles here, Jim Sullivan. Anybody from the town of Peru who will be speaking? And select board?
I'm the abutting landowner.
Sorry?
I'm the abutting landowner. I'm just here.
Okay, well, we'll go through the sign-up sheet. So, Jim, do you have anything you want to present?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not really. I think, we maybe make some brief comments under criterion 10, but nothing extensive.
Okay.
Do you want me to do my criterion 10 right now? Okay.
What, do you want to do that, or should we? No, we just want to get what the criterion is, and then
That's
we'll go through it.
really it, and it's not.
Unless you want me to go into it again. Okay. And Elizabeth, you are here.
I'm Elizabeth Peebles, and I'm from the Vermont Division for Historic Preservation, so we're here for criteria 8.
Okay. And select board or town?
Gail Acosta, select board member. I'm not sure about the criteria.
Is there a particular concern that you have about the application?
Not particular, no, just an overview for the board.
Okay. Anybody else from the town? Yes.
Stuart Biddy, Planning Commission Chair, here to observe.
Okay. Anyone else?
John Levesque is zoning administrator,
Okay.
observer.
Okay. Yes,
Planning
sir?
Commission, Peter Vernon, observer.
Okay.
Paul Myers, Planning Commission, observer.
Okay.
Photographer.
Great. So this, do we have this sign-up sheet? Is it?
Yep.
So, okay. Okay, so the applicant, want to introduce yourself?
Ryan Friends, applicant, owner of the property in question.
Okay.
I'll just introduce our design team.
Okay.
John Wright with Mance Engineering. Ryan Friends, he's the applicant slash owner, managing member of JS LLC, who is actually the applicant on this project. Ramsey Gore from Ramsey Gore Architects. And Chris Vanessa is also here from our company, another civil engineer from Mance Engineering. And myself, John Wright, Mance Engineering.
Okay, thank you. So let me see if there's anybody who's not. That's what I'm looking for. So is there anybody who we haven't spoken to, who hasn't raised his or her hand?
Everybody has been accounted for?
Virginia.
McGill Meeting, Manchester Journal.
You signed in? Okay.
So why don't I swear in those people who will be testifying? Do it, raise your right hand. Now, just even if you think you might not be testifying and you might have something to say, it's a good idea to be sworn in. It's not going to hurt you. So do you solemnly swear that the evidence you are about to give on the matter under consideration is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. So, John, are you going to walk us through the project?
Sure, I'll give you a start with it.
Any questions before we start?
Again, my name is John Wright with Mance Engineering Partners. Give you just a basic overview of the project. First, I'll start with the existing features that are on site, existing buildings.
Okay.
I think everyone that's in this room today was at the site visit this morning, so this is going to be redundant. But Johnny Seesaw is a 60-seat restaurant and a 20-bedroom inn facility. And also on the parcel, it's a 6.8 acre parcel, and it's an existing residential / commercial mixed-use project. So you've got the restaurant that's there today with the other outbuildings. One being what is called the ski loft building located here, the furthest building, one of the furthest buildings up on the site, and that is a 3-unit residential building. There's another structure located just beyond that. That would be the structure located at the highest point of elevation, and that is called what we're referring to as the barn, horse barn building, and that's just equipment storage. The next building number 3, is a cottage. There's a cottage building, and that's named as the barn building, and that's a two-unit cottage. In addition, there's another cottage on site. There's 3 more cottages on site, each one being two units, and those names are the chicken coop, the butterfly cabin, and the court cabin.
The barn was actually four unit building.
The barn was four unit. Okay. And the last structure on this site is a little shed down here in the southeast corner, and that's just for storage right now. We'll go into the proposed project, and the proposed project is a redevelopment of the site. Proposed project is a redevelopment of the site. Again, we're maintaining the mixed use, the residential commercial component. And there will be 2 buildings that will essentially be relocated. The one being the restaurant facility. That will be relocated to what is the pool location right now. There's an in-ground pool that was filled in, but that's the location where we're proposing to site the new restaurant. That's a 60-seat restaurant. Again, not changing the number of seats that's currently in the restaurant today. However, we're proposing adding a craft distillery use to that building that will be located on that level. The only other building that will be relocated is the chicken coop cabin, located approximately right here today. That will be located up in alignment with the butterfly and the court cabin. There is an additional proposed use for retail space, but what is being proposed as artisan retail, pottery, soap making, very specialized retail, more of a local artisan shops. That's what's being proposed. They will be located on walkout foundations that we propose to construct on each one of the cabin buildings. Below on the lower level, there'll be walkout foundations, and that's where the artisan shops will be located. We sited the building in this location to maintain just an existing circulation of what's already there today from access standpoint, and also to utilize what will be the former location of the restaurant as a parking lot. There will be a change in use to the shed building that's just now storage. That's in the southeast corner. It's a small shed, and that will be a coffee shop. It's a walk-in coffee shop. It will not be a drive-in or drive-up to window or anything like that. You park, you walk in, get your coffee, and hopefully enjoy the rest of the property. In addition to that, you can see here in blue is what we'll have is a cascading effect of a water feature that will start up by the cabins and work its way down between the parking lot and the proposed restaurant. It's kind of depicted here on this rendering, and that will go into a pond, and that pond it's a multi-purpose use pond. It's a fire pond for firefighting purposes, in addition to a stormwater management pond, and also in the wintertime there will be an ice skating pond. And we will be locating a new structure, a small structure similar to the shed in size, near that pond as a warming hut for ice skating in the wintertime.
Is that the,
That's
that, oh, so what is this, just to the south of that building, of the pond, yeah, what is that?
That's just an emergency overflow. It's part of the stormwater design requirements. So that's just a general overview of the entire project. Did I miss anything? Okay.
I have a question. On the other sheet, the existing conditions, where it says in the little bubble about the existing restaurant, it says building will be raised, R-A-I-S-D. At one time, were you planning to?
No, that's a
just
typo.
misspelling?
Could be Z.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not being wise, but I was just curious about that.
Good question.
And then the pond, I know it's going to be stormwater, but in, say like a summer like this, would the level be maintained by the well? I mean, you know, you're probably evaporation and things like that if you're not.
That's a possibility, but there's going to be enough volume in there. I think the groundwater condition alone in that area, about 3 feet down, I think we're going to be in the Seesaw high water table anyways. But
So you're thinking that there could be some spring action?
no, just the drainage
Okay.
alone will be able to maintain, should be able to maintain the level of the pond.
Okay.
But I suppose we could integrate into a water line down to that to feed the pond. But as of right now, there's, from just a hydrogeological standpoint, and hydrology standpoint, we're not seeing any need to do that.
Okay.
There's probably want to go back and just mention the wastewater and water supply systems. The facility currently has a water supply or a wastewater system that's located on the parish residence parcel. There's an easement on that. And we're not changing any of the design flows. We're actually, we'll be reducing the design flows that go to that wastewater treatment system, probably by about 400 gallons, 400 or 500 gallons to what is currently designed for. We also have identified septic replacement areas in the event that system would ever fail, and that'd be located in this area here, up near the horse barn, and then immediately in front of the existing restaurant. Those are the two septic areas identified for future replacement areas if needed. As far as water supply, we plan on just utilizing the existing drilled well. It's very deep. We had Dennis Nealon from the state hydrogeologist out here, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and we'll just have to submit a water quality test. But as far as interference testing with any of the neighbors, it's far enough away that there's no interference. But it's a pretty high yielding well, sufficient to serve the project and some.
Okay. Let's start with 1.
Yep. So we're going to just start with criterion 1. And you just want to go down through each criteria.
Please.
So that was the general project description. Start with criterion 1. And
For those of you who don't have a list in front of you, the first one is air pollution.
Page is that?
Page 9. So this is Schedule B, Criterion 1, related to air pollution. This is about what type of heating systems we plan on using in the facility, and there will be propane, radiant heat, and heat pumps. Moving on to Criterion 1B, describe the process of emissions. There's really not a lot of emissions or any emissions on the site. Mostly the emissions will be related to, just general construction. There may be occasional burning that will take place as far as tree debris, leaves, things like that, but we'll certainly go get the applicable local burn permit as necessary. But the plan is to mulch most of that and utilize that as far as stabilizing any disturbed earth during construction.
Hey, John. Under C, will there be blasting? You have no checked. I know we noticed on the site plan up by the, wasn't the chicken coop, I forget the name of it, the buttery or something. And there was what appeared to be, it could have been ledge. If you do run into ledge, what do you imagine? Would you try to use a whole ram, or would you blast?
That would be our first option. It depends on how much is there. Maybe we can design around it. Like any sites, or just any construction site. We just don't know what's under the ground.
Right, so you've done no borings as such.
No. But yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no plan of blasting right now.
Okay.
We'll have to address that
Okay.
at the time of construction, if we run into that situation. But yeah, the first option would be to use a ram on the end of an excavator to try to break that apart.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Before I forget. You probably come to it later, but in talking about the heating system, you talked about propane radiant heat pumps. Like, what are you heating with what? To what extent are you using heat pumps versus radiant?
For Ryan.
The heat pumps are pretty much being used for the shoulder seasons. And in case of having mild winter like we had last year, then there wouldn't really be any need to use propane. So that's kind of why I designed or thought of the design for Granta here is basically if you have the heat pump system, the radiant system, which is on propane, and even have in certain units, you'll have propane fireplaces or stoves. That should be able, during a power outage, the propane stoves will be a millivolt system, so those will be able to keep the place heated if needed. And figuring that will cover all the bases. So, and being as efficient as possible with everything and allowing the guests to be able to regulate their temperature with only the heat pumps, and then the propane ones just being set at a certain temperature just to maintain its maximum efficiency.
Okay, moving on. 1D, what restrictions will there be for the hours of construction operation? Site construction will occur during the normal daylight hours. And then the internal building construction that will take place will typically.
Did you talk about 1A, headwaters?
Wait, we're still on.
I'm still on one.
Oh, one
small
C, okay, got it.
That's-
All right, sorry.
That's a little confusing. on
Yeah,
my part.
got it.
I apologize. So the internal building construction will take place generally between 7 and 9 p.m. And then one subsection E on there is does your project will require an A&R air pollution control permit? That's not.
So there are no neighbors who can hear the construction, is that correct?
There is the neighbors, Mr. Parrish residence right here. There's the Deschwines property up here, however, that's burnt down. And the remaining adjacent landowner is brown. So, relatively speaking, there's only really one neighbor.
So construction from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. is okay?
Internal, inside the building.
Internal.
Not
Okay.
an exterior, no.
Okay. So, and then that's not described here.
I mentioned that in the, that'll be an internal building construction. Will be
And is there a time for external?
during the normal daylight hours.
So maybe it should include that's 7 a.m. to whatever.
Sunrise to sunrise.
Sunrise to sunset, I guess is.
No, that's
Well, that's listen to the summer.
No, summer,
No,
summer,
we want-
yeah, we
Yeah,
want
that's like
time.
4:30 to.
We need hours.
Okay.
Okay, that can be a resource.
Times, generally people like to start around 7 and finish, I think, around 5:30 at the latest. So that's what my experience has been.
Probably 7 to 6 o'clock.
So
7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Saturdays? Sundays?
That's a good question. That is, we can include, that's kind of up to the contractor to meet their deadlines. So if we need to include that, then,
I mean, you can get back to us on that.
yeah,
But
because we don't have,
we want to have times.
okay.
Those can be objectionable.
Perhaps you could talk to the parishes and see what their feeling is too, on the weekends. Like, I mean, it's expected that you work during, normal hours, 7 to 6 or something, something unusual, but perhaps 7 to 6 on the weekend, maybe, or on a Sunday. So, okay.
On the criterion 1A, headwaters. Project is located in a headwaters because it's over the elevation of 1,500 feet. We're roughly 1,900 feet. Almost 2,000 foot elevation. Criterion 1B, waste disposal.
Can I ask you a question about that? I mean, that answers, is it there? But does that answer, I mean, is it's talking about regarding any reduction in quality of ground or surface waters in the headwaters area?
We're building, Jim, we're building over already disturbed areas. It's a redevelopment of something that's.
I'm not arguing whether or not it is, it's just it doesn't really answer the criteria, just saying it's there, right?
That's the question. Yes, no.
It's a sleeper criteria.
Yeah.
If you're satisfying the wastewater regulations, then you're basically, unless you're, just doing a lot of disturbance in the stream channel itself of a headwater stream, and there is no stream here.
Rick, getting back to your question about the times, the parishes do not reside there, so
It's not the primary residence.
Okay.
It's only there occasionally.
Okay. So that might
So-
make your life easier.
correct.
It's every project.
So, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Back to 1B/A. Will the project require a wastewater permit? It does, and that permit is pending. It's being reviewed by the wastewater management folks for the replacement septic fields. This part B, the question is, are you required to obtain any of the following permits? Already said that the wastewater system and portable water supply permit is required. That's for the replacement septic fields. The stormwater discharge permit is required. We have obtained that. I think Warren, I forwarded you a copy of that, so hopefully that's included in your package now. There's not a stormwater discharge individual permit is not required for this project. A construction journal permit is required for this project, and this project has received that for a low-risk site for construction journal permit for a low-risk site. A construction individual permit is not required for this project.
So just the existing septic system on the parish's property is going to serve all the buildings, like even that little coffee shop it's all going to go over to the existing system?
There's actually one more. There's another system on site. So there's two systems. There's one on site that's currently will be served by the coffee shop, ski lot building, and this.
Oh, so that's an existing system as well? The
Yes,
one up there?
yes.
Okay, so you pump up from the
Correct.
coffee shop?
Yes.
Okay, so what buildings are served by that upper system?
That'll be the restaurant and the cottages.
Well, the upper system.
Okay, well, so the restaurant and the cottages go down to that one, and then the coffee shop, the ski thing,
And
Ski
this
house, yeah.
building will go to this
The chicken
barn structure.
The barn. Oh, the barn, okay. Okay, good. And then the replacements up above that are for,
Yeah, so the
in case anything fails, you have those replacements.
Anytime you relocate a building like this,
Okay, good.
it triggers that requirement.
Yep, because I thought I saw on the plan that it was going uphill from the coffee shop.
Yeah, I have that plan here, I can show you that.
No, we're good.
I forgot to mention that. Multi-sector general permit is not required, nor is underground injection control permit. Sewer main extension, solid waste facility, underground storage tank permits, none of those permits are required for this project. On C, what is the acreage of the project that will be disturbed during construction? It'll be approximately 4.5 acres. And those disturbances will occur in phases as the project is constructed in phases. What acres of the project is currently covered with buildings, impervious surfaces, and it's will be 1.97 acres. Currently, there's 0.9 acres, roughly 0.9 acres of existing impervious surfaces. And again, that's roadways, buildings, walkways, things of that nature. Next question is regarding stormwater treatment, and I mentioned that in my opening statement that the pond here in the forebay, that's our stormwater management facility, and that's been permitted for such use. And that would treat most of the impervious on the site. This is a redevelopment project.
So it comes, say you did have a high stormwater event, then it goes in the pond, it comes out that riprap exit, right?
Well, that's what's not, there's actually another outlet structure, a small outlet structure that maintains a certain amount of flow out of the pond. This is emergency, maybe a 5-year storm event.
Okay, so, but would they both, so say that small pipe, that goes down over grass into the swale?
Yep.
I didn't notice there's a swale, next to the road.
Yeah, so it'll discharge out of that structure in a controlled manner. And I believe, Chris, we had probably a rock outfall on that, and that directs it to
the culvert that goes over
that's there.
So there's a culvert
Already
right
there?
Yeah, so it's pretty close spot.
Yeah.
And then what's on the other side? What happens to it on the other side?
I don't know where it actually goes on the other side. Maybe Chris,
it outlets down just to an existing rock faced it's overgrown slope that goes down eventually to the Eddy Brook.
So it's a grassy, rocky.
Correct.
Okay.
And all the outlets are designed to make sure that pre-development and post-development meet. So during a heavy storm, this actually holds back water and then releases it at a slower rate.
I get you.
The emergency spillways there for catastrophic rain events like Irene or something like that, so it doesn't blow out the berm, it does release it slowly over the top of it.
I get you. But otherwise the pond fills up, but the 4-inch pipe is lower, so it just slowly goes out through that.
Correct. And there's a couple of other outlets in that structure, but it maintains during the 10-year storm or the 50-year storm that keeps it down, down to a lower rate.
I got you. Okay.
Next question is, are there any manufactured or industrial processes which could affect the wastewater? And there is. From the craft distillery portion, from the washout water where you empty your tanks and wash out those tanks. And we've got separated wastewater streams. So you have the domestic side, all the bathroom facilities go to the wastewater treatment facilities on site and off site here in the parish parcel. But as far as the processed water, that's collected in a tank exterior of the building. We bring in a wastewater hauler truck, standard wastewater hauler truck, and pump that out when that gets full. Bring it to a facility that can treat that kind of waste, like the town of Bennington wastewater treatment facility, or any other municipal type of wastewater treatment facility can treat that high strength waste, processed wastewater.
How large is that tank?
To fill this, we have a 2,500 gallon tank, so that ideally we're guesstimating it's probably going to take a month to fill that tank up. So maybe once a month type of Yeah. The actual craft distillery portion doesn't really use all that much water, maybe 200 gallons, something like that, for 300 gallons per week. So it's
For wash up.
the wash up is minimal because it's actually using
A lot of
kind of the
the
byproduct from.
byproduct will be pumped out and be used as either fertilizer or feed for pigs. So in the end, when you're left with, you're maybe after a cycle, you might be left with 15 gallons of washout and cleaning. That would have to go to that tank, so.
So if you, like last year I knew a brewery and they lost their Oktoberfest. I think it got infected with the wrong yeast or something.
Yes.
So that would also go into, if
That would
that
go-
happened on the, you know.
Yeah, no, that's.
But if that happened, that would
If it
also-
happens, you have done, it will go, it'll be about, I mean, the still would be around a 300 gallon still, so what you get out of there will be probably finished product. You're talking, what is it?
Maybe 200 grams.
Sorry?
Maybe 200 grams of that.
Yeah, less than half of that, so it's.
I see, in my mind, I've been thinking brewery, but this is a distillery.
Distillery,
This
correct.
is, this is hard, okay.
A little less waste,
Yeah.
Right, okay, I got you.
but very similar process. With the spent remains, they'll just give it to the local farm.
Right, yep, okay, yep.
Is there a permit for hazardous waste handler site? No. Again, we're not handling the waste as much as a wet bulb treatment facility is, hauling that off site to a treatment facility that can't handle that type of waste. Will hazardous materials be stored on site? No, there's no plan to store any hazardous materials. No chemicals that we would be utilizing. Maybe some cleaner solution, but that would be something that's environmental friendly. Indicate how construction debris, including stumps, will be disposed of. Any construction debris, including stumps, will be hauled off site and disposed of in an appropriate class waste facility.
Do you have a recycling plan for the materials that you're taking out of the building?
We do not have a plan for that. I believe we're still under 5,000 square feet. We're going to try to recycle as much as we possibly can for as far as repurposing things and salvaging things. But as far as sheet metal and things like that, Ryan might be able to speak better to that. Ryan?
For the, what was the question?
For the decompression.
Okay.
For
yes.
demolition,
Well, Casella is what we did with the current building that we're working in the back. Is Casella would supply different dumpsters for sheet metal or for regular waste, construction waste. So we had quite a bit of cleanup, and I think we moved out 2 30-yard dumpsters with the old building of metal on its own. So that's what pretty much is the only thing you can recycle is the metal in there, because everything else is pretty much this sheetrock contaminates all the rest of the debris and the screws that are already in your wood and the lumber. So.
I think that ties into the next question. Well, actually, I think we just covered that question. J, indicate if any building on the property or proposed project includes any floor drains. There will be, and like I said, that's for our process waste. There'll be a floor drain in the bottom, on the lower level of the distillery. If something spills, that gets collected and that goes to the process holding tank.
So that drain goes into the holding tank?
Yes. Yeah. Criterion 1C, describe the extent of water use in the project. The water use is for residential, commercial purposes. The proposed use as compared to the existing use will actually have a reduction in water demand, probably by, I think, 600 gallons per day, less than what's currently on site. So, and that's, as I said before, we'll be serving it, the entire water supply from the existing drill well located near the ski loft building.
And the reason that it's reduced is that there are no
We removed the
ends.
the 20-bedroom end use, and then that drastically reduced that. We're going to utilize low-flow plumbing fixtures. In addition, where practical, we'll utilize waterless urinals in the restaurant. Will any water be used for commercial industrial processing? Yes, it will be. That's for the craft distillery portion. But it's a very low gallons per day. Will any water be withdrawn from river streams or any other body of water? And the answer to that question is no. Are any permits or approvals for water withdrawal required by the Agency of Natural Resources? This is a typo on our part here. We've got yes and no checked, and the answer to that question for clarification is actually no. That's not required for this low use, low demand manufacturing process of water. Criterion 1D. All the questions in that criterion, as the answers are no. Criterion 1E is related to streams. Answer those. Any question there under that criteria is no. There's no streams on site. 1F is shorelines. There's no shoreline. And 1G, there are no class 2 or class 1 wetlands.
It's like a desert over there.
Just start to get a picture of it. Criterion 2 and 3, that's back to the water supply. Like I previously mentioned, we'll have a reduction in that water supply. This is for permitting purposes, a transient non-community public water supply. So we're processing that permits with the Agency of Natural Resources. As I mentioned before, Dennis Neal, state hydrogeologist, was on site and just asked that we just test the water quality for the source, which is already there.
And just to clarify, all the water will be served by that upper well that's up above the ski loft?
Yep,
Yeah.
right next to the ski loft.
And the well that's existing in the existing building will be discontinued?
Yes, it'll be abandoned and discontinued. And this well yields, per the well driller report, is 12 gallons a minute, about 500-foot deep well. And we'll have a water distribution and storage system in here, so we're really only pulling probably about 5 gallons a minute from the well at peak demand.
So that distribution system is in the first main floor of the chicken coop?
In the basement, in the basement.
Oh, it's going to be in the basement.
Basement of the barn.
Yes.
So the barn building right now is a 2-unit cottage.
You're right.
That used to be eliminated. The water distribution system will be in there, as well as on a lower level, the retail artisan space.
Okay, so an artisan's...
Now, on the primary level, there's no second floor on it.
There's no second.
It's just-
Okay, there's
it's just
basement
artisan
and
space
primary.
and basement.
Okay.
And the basement will house the water distribution
Okay.
facility, and then the space above it will be artisan retail.
Okay, which is now
Which is now
residential.
4 units.
down.
Yes, it's 4 units.
4 units of residential currently.
Okay.
No, that's not resident, no.
That is not lodging.
Lodging.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes. The inn had 20 rooms, and 3 of the cabins had 2 bedrooms, and that one had 4 bedrooms.
Okay, so 6, 10, and would you say in the main one?
20.
20? And then when you're done, how many will it be?
13.
13, all in outbuilding, all in.
Was it 13? No, sorry. No, wait, 1, 2. I'm counting commercial, sorry. 1,
It'd be 9
9,
so-
yes.
9 units, and they'll just be lodging, like
Yes.
people will come for the weekend or whatever, or?
Correct.
Yeah,
It
rental
will be,
for the
yes, it'll be
8 units.
rental, whether they wanted to rent it for a season
Okay.
or for a night.
Yeah, I get you. Okay.
Moving on to, is a wastewater water supply permit required for this project? Yes, it is. And also in our drinking water groundwater protection division, permit required for the shared water system? Yes, it is. Again, that's the permit that is currently pending approval. Next question, identify adjacent water supplies, demonstrate that the use of the water will not restrict or negatively affect those water supplies. The parish resident well is located 400 plus feet away. Like I said, we had Dennis Thielen down here on site, did a site visit, and he agreed that there would be no interference associated with our proposed water demand and proposed water supply drilled well, utilizing an existing drill well. Criterion 4, soil erosion. Question 4A is describe the terrain. We've all seen the terrain out there. It's mountainous. It's as you go upslope, it gets mountainous. However, it's fairly mild near the roadway as it's already developed, 10-12% slopes. As you make your way up the mountain, up the slope, it gradually gets a little steeper. Typical of mountainous terrain, some large rock croppings, things of that nature. As far as the construction and the erosion prevention and the sediment control, that will be phased out in 2 to 3 phases, possibly 4. Again, we build the restaurant, stabilize that area, stabilize the parking area, and just keep phasing the approaches, phasing out the construction and stabilizing those disturbed areas.
So could you just talk about that phasing a little more specifically?
Yeah.
What the plan is?
We have a general plan now. We'll have to work that out a little more detail with the actual contractor because we're on a risk site for construction. We're required to seed and mulch anything that's disturbed within, I believe, 7 or 14 days of any earth disturbance. But the plan is to raise these buildings slightly up, the cottage buildings where the retail space is, excavate that material out, and put the foundations in, those walkout foundations. And then once that is complete, we'll leave this schedule for
yes, the first phase would be to do the cabins, then, well, obviously first is infrastructure wise, and then the cabins, and then the parking lot with the restaurant building.
And is that sequential, so as soon as one's done, the next one's done, or is it going to be spread out over a number of years, or what's your estimate?
Well, what I would like is that it would be all operational by Christmas of 17. Is that realistic? It all depends on many different factors. So once the permits and everything is in place, then we can make an educated decision of what can be done.
And being where we're at, located so high in elevation, it's weather dependent too.
Right. Yeah.
Are we required to obtain the following permits? The construction general permit? I said yes, we are. For the low risk. We're a low risk site, we've obtained that permit. And we are not required to obtain the construction individual permit. The next question is again about the erosion control measures. We just talked about that. Again, seeding and mulching. Putting up our silt fences, erosion control measure. Seeding and mulching soon after disturbing earth, things of that nature. Construction entrances, stabilized construction entrances with rock so it can scrape off any sediment or soil that's on the trucks as they come in and out of the site. Pretty much answered the following. Again, they're all related to stabilization during construction for erosion prevention. frequently will the erosion controls be inspected during construction? That will occur daily from the site contractors themselves. And then weekly inspections will take place, going out and immediately or right after a storm event. The contractor will be examining all the erosion control measures that are in place and fixing those just to continue to stabilize the site throughout the duration of construction. Criterion 5, transportation. The access, again, the access is we're going to utilize the existing access points that are already there today. It's very similar uses that are there today. There's not a whole lot of change in use and little to no increase in trip generation than what's there today. For those in the trips of generations, vehicles and coming in and out of your site during the peak hour times and throughout the entire day.
Did V-Trans have an entry in this? Yeah, they did.
Yeah, we actually met with Teresa Gilman from V-Trans yesterday morning, and so we're working with her and be working with her on the permitting of the. We thought originally there was a permit on file for this site with V-Trans, it was already permitted access, but since it's so old, it's been there for so long, they had no record of it, and so we'll be working with them and addressing their concerns. But as far as our meeting yesterday, everything seemed very positive. Again, I just talked about the trip generations. We're estimated at 396 one-way trips per day, and 30 during the AM peak hours, and 39 during the PM peak hour for trip generation. And that's below anything that the threshold that would require a traffic impact study. Again, this is the same, pretty much the same uses, relatively the same trips and traffic volumes that we expect. That's already there today.
Question about the distillery. The product from that distillery will be just used in-house, or will that be distributed?
The idea is to do something, to create a hands-on experience and to teach people how the distillery product will work, or how it's produced and how it's blended, and they can come in and learn about it, as certain places around, I don't know, it's not in Vermont, but I know in Connecticut people are more and more making wines hands-on, etc. And I know in Kentucky and other places there are places like this that they allow the general public to come in and learn and blend and make their own batches.
And the question is commercial distribution?
Commercial distribution, it is in the far future, maybe, but I think that will be readdressed once it gets to that point.
Yes. Currently no plans for commercial distribution.
I mean, it kind of ties into the traffic question, so.
Yeah.
As far as pedestrian and bicycle safety, some mountainous areas, we're really not changing anything. That bicycles will on site, if they want to use a bicycle, they'd have to utilize the existing, share the same access and driveways, parking lots. There's not really no place for a bicycle path through the site.
John, I was just curious, how do you get the numbers of daily trips and peak hour trips? Is there
There's a
table?
It's called the Institute of Transportation Engineers, IT manual that V-Trans uses, and just everybody in the industry. So they do a lot of research studies about the different uses.
Okay.
So there's tables you can look up and get that estimated trips in.
So you added all the uses, the coffee shop, when that's open, and they're not all open at once, right?
Well, there is, and Chris would probably be better at handling this question than I, because you worked on that question and is more familiar with that ITE manual. But yeah, they will be open at the same time, but what you're really looking at is that peak hour, how many trips are coming in that peak hour. That's really putting the demand on that roadway. Because the roadway, well, it's Route 11, it can't handle a lot, but it's not like a side street or something in town here that if you put 50 cars in an hour, then maybe we're looking at a traffic signal situation. So that's not the situation here.
Do you or Chris know what the peak hour
Yes,
is?
so that's where we get the AM, so there's AM peak hour and then the nighttime peak hour. It's 30 trips in the AM peak hour.
And which is what hour?
I think it's between 7 and 9.
It's an hour between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m.
Okay.
And then PM is between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m.
So it's kind of, I mean, in the winter, it would be the time when Bromley's also their peak hour, in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, in the summer, Bromley's a short window, but I imagine that I don't know, do you imagine that your peak times of the year would be winter or year-round?
Much year-round. Obviously, we'll be catering.
Yeah, and I know
to
there's
the
separation.
Yeah.
Plus that was a usage in the past of the restaurant and the lodging. I mean, it's no different. It's actually less probably.
Yeah, so I mean, we're hoping that people remain on site and utilize the amenities there if they're visiting a restaurant.
Is the restaurant open for what meals?
Just 2 meals a day, so a lunch and a dinner.
Lunch and dinner.
And we're restricted by that, by our wastewater supply.
Okay, no breakfast.
No.
Breakfast at the coffee shop.
Yes, that's why we might have a bakery in the coffee shop, and that will kind of fill that need.
This is a personal question.
But yeah, no seats for breakfast.
And that way it'll allow
It'll be an
people
Irish,
to have goods
Irish
for-
coffee.
Okay, I think we addressed the parking and traffic and that criteria. There is a question about the estimated number of additional students that may attend the local school. Maybe Ryan's child, maybe one, potentially. But this isn't a residential, other than one resident, full-time residence in the ski loft. So there's no anticipated increase in students.
And the staff will be drawn from the local population?
Yeah,
as we can.
we're open and estimating that between 10 and 15 employees for the overall project.
There's no trail that links Bromley Mountain to this, is there? Like a ski trail?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was an old trail at one time. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can walk back there, and during the winter, from the bottom of the Blue Ribbon chair, you can make out the path down to the site, and that is something that we're talking to Bromley about, that potentially we could reopen a woods trail down to it in the future.
It's on they own that property.
They own that property, and I think there used to be a toll road. I don't know, that's vague in the historical part, but
I mean, from
this site
From this
up
site,
to the
no.
Blue Ribbon chair,
No.
no? It's just-
no, there was an informal trail
Okay.
that people would return to around the Seesaws from the ski area. But I don't think very many people went the other way.
Just the Nordic skiers.
Yeah. It was bushwhacking.
I Under criterion 7, municipal services, we will utilize the police, fire, and ambulance services, and we've got those abilities or letters that they provided that they do have the ability to serve our project. Under criterion 8, scenic beauty, historic sites and natural areas. As I've already discussed, it's a recurrent theme, it's a redevelopment project, and we're repurposing, utilizing as much of the old building as we can and the new restaurant.
Could you just, how far from the road, like, what's the difference? Is this, the new restaurant going to be closer to the road or further back from the road?
This is the outline of the old restaurant, so it's set back further from the road. Okay, the new restaurant. Okay. It's tough to see on this, but it is.
Okay.
Maybe 50 feet further back. In the idea again is not only you cite that here, the backdrop will be that earth embankment that you see, and then above that you have the cottage buildings, and above that is the tree line. So it kind of just hides itself in. You see it from 11. And with the construction materials for the siding, it's going to be earth tone color. It's very similar to natural wood, to what the ski loft building looks like right now with the Adirondack type look. But or very similar to what sort of the cedar shakes that's on the building today. I think that's what we're looking at. So yeah, as far as the beauty, adding that element of the pond, because it's actually a nice amenity to the site, in addition to serving as a stormwater and fire pond. So you'll be able to see that briefly if you're traveling. I believe that's eastbound.
East or west.
No, northeastbound, I guess. And then traveling southwestbound, you'll be able to see the pond, see the building set back there. The parking lot area will have a row of arborvitaes to just screen that parking area. We don't want to try to hide that. We don't want really a parking lot to be any focal point, but being that it's going to be located higher in elevation too, it's going to help with that. As far as seeing that from the road, we really want the focus to be on this area here.
Is there a landscape plan?
That's basically the landscape plan. Everything else is really going to be, we'll have some wetland vegetation around here because we want to make it feel and look natural. As far as the pond, you'll have a cascading effect and river rock inside this channel here. So there'll be like an 8-foot waterfall here, and then another 6-foot here, and then another. So you have this cascading multiple waterfall effect, and you can't see it on this rendering going in the pond, but that's the look of the walkout, lower level of the restaurant.
It would be helpful to see what trees you're putting in, what trees you're taking out.
The entire site, everything here, as far as trees, will most likely have to be eliminated in order to.
I think it would be helpful for us to see
Sure.
a plan showing trees that will be removed,
Yeah, show the tree
and
line.
trees that you're putting in and the type of trees you're putting
Yeah, we can provide that.
in. Thank you.
We'll try and put as many fruit-bearing trees, apple trees, and that kind of stuff is what the idea is to replant.
So it would be helpful to
So that-
see that all laid out.
Yeah.
I just wanted to second that because I was going to ask the same question about the landscape plan. I know later in this section it talks about, retaining and enhancing existing vegetation, but, given the site work and what you just said, obviously most of that's going to be opened up. And, all it's really showing is that little row of arborvitae, which leaves a pretty stark appearance. So, because this is a prominent site along the, major regional highway, we do want the landscaping plan to be given some real thought.
You have to remember too, Jim, we're looking at the 3D plan here. That's located probably 10, 12 feet higher than the road surface.
Yeah, I'm not concerned just about the parking, because I do understand that the parking, given the elevation, is not going to be highly visible. I'm talking about the overall appearance of the highway.
And I think that's the overall thing, is to add some tree plantings in here and create this more like a park look effect. Yes, we can certainly provide that landscaping plan, but a lot of this area we can't plant trees in because that's our replacement sewage disposal areas. So as far as visualizing the site from all the way up to the cabins, we'll have to selectively place those plantings, that makes sense for the site and the infrastructure, so.
Yeah, it'd be helpful to see what are canopy trees, what are more domestic, fruit trees, and just real specifics about how the view will be from driving along.
Is a project use residential to industrial size, architectural density consistent with the existing or planned uses in the area? Again, this is a redevelopment of the site that's already there, and to what's practical, trying to kind of mimic that. And Ramsey could probably speak to that as far as the architectural features of the building. Plans, but it's in the packet there. Again, you can see what this building is going to look like. Sure, that'd be great if we could figure elevations. Ramsey has some building elevations.
We can project it.
Okay, great.
Maybe.
Just while we're on the hotspot.
Rick, it's your cue.
Well,
What if there's
the
a
light.
wand?
I'll push the power again. Probably died on its own. And slide the.
I think it only works when I'm looking at it.
Slide.
I did slide it open.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's.
It's warm, okay. But Penny, how do we tell it what to do?
Well, that's warming up. We can talk just a little bit about the sort of approach to the new building. As you can see, the massing of the building is very similar to the existing building, and the idea was to try to restore that memory of what the previous building was. Again, we're benching it into the hillside here with a walkout on the lower level. That's a masonry walkout, so that would all be stone. Really trying to work with an indigenous palette of materials here, and a very quiet palette. We want this building to feel like it's always been there. So we have some pictures.
How do we get it to do what we...
Warren gets to do. Can we?
I'm just wondering if we don't have shades on the windows, so that's just bright, whether it's worth even projecting. Can't tell. Can you see what is up there? I mean, it's one of the historic shots from the time. What do you want me to try and pull up?
Do you want us to show the site plan, floor plan? What do you want?
Actually, the building elevations, I think, probably speak most to the character. And
First, the main building.
this is the southeast elevation here. I don't know if you can access it easily there.
That's the exhibit list.
Distillery? Would it be the distillery?
Restaurant distillery? Yep.
Is it 25?
Oh, wait.
So I've got two distilleries. I wonder if I want this
We didn't know you were really on a really steep hillside.
So this is our anti-gravity ski.
That's not...
That's after you visited the distillery. I don't know, can you see the drawing here?
Yeah.
I know we're really trying to work out the technology.
Maybe if I take this.
No. Projector.
Very good.
I still don't think that's going to work.
I think I'll go back to the historic pictures.
Okay.
So maybe if I can talk about the building
All right.
here. In the drawings here, you can see that's the lower level of the distillery here. There's a porch that wraps around, very similar to what we have currently. Right now, there's a solid base here, the railing. We're opening that up and trying to make it a little lighter to get a better view out of there. Cedar, combination of timber posts, cedar shakes. Again, very similar in color and texture to the project that Brian's been building on the hill and the ski house there. Standing seam metal roof, again, back to the original roof on that. There's a pedestrian bridge to enter the building, and I don't know if that's visible, but from the parking lot, there's a handicap drop-off, guest drop-off, and then that pedestrian bridge that comes here to the primary entrance, which comes into this gabled entry here into the restaurant, which would be right here. This is that area of the cascade, as mentioned previously. So that comes in, there's actually a culvert that goes under the receiving area here and comes through under the bridge. From the question came up about obscured views from the cottages, and again, because it's benched into the hill so much like the other one, but we're actually going to address it from a construction perspective, but you can see how this actually really, the grade rises significantly. So this is the rear elevation, which is primarily roof at that point.
Is it cathedral ceiling in the restaurant then? Cathedral ceiling
In the current restaurant?
No, in this.
We're toying with how to do that and also get our any ventilation if we need any space up top for air distribution. So maybe fully cathedral with exposed ductwork, maybe partially open, maybe with a small sort of plenum to work through.
Yeah. Just see that those windows and the peaks of the gable.
Any questions on that?
So it's going to be similar to the existing where you have a fieldstone fireplace at the one end and then the...
Right. Well, and while that's not an original feature of the building, it's something that just in hearing from the community, everybody's like, oh, we gotta have that fireplace. If you look at the historic pictures, there was no fireplace at that end. And in fact, there was no fire pit either. I don't know when the fire pit was added.
The fire pit was added in 1938.
Okay, so
Not from the dance era, but from the
earlier in here. So, but those two features we're planning on incorporating in the property. Oh, there we go. Nicely done. Yeah, that's probably more legible than trying to see it. Yeah.
I'm very adept now, so whatever you need.
You got it.
Oh, and there's an outside fireplace as well.
That's
Downstairs.
Yeah.
Yes.
There'll be outside seating.
From the distillery, just a small gathering area. And then they'll be seating on the porch.
So are you talking granite or fieldstone or marble? What's the
The
native-
stone?
Yeah,
We're thinking of a fieldstone.
fieldstone.
Fieldstone rake-back joints, fairly rustic feel to it. I always say that the best sort of installation for a project like this is don't use a mason. You want it to look like it's sort of evolved over time. Get someone who's never done that work before, so it doesn't look too clean and look like, you know,
I got just the person.
Greenwich Mason.
We'll be reutilizing the marble that is there currently. We will be using it for pathways, walkways, or different stairs.
When you just mentioned that there would be seating on the porch, is that restaurant seating on the porch?
Restaurant seating on the main level porch.
And is that in that 60
Yes, so it's a
person, or is
seasonal
that,
thing,
it's
so
a
they'll,
seasonally
so they'll
it would
move
be
some seating
60,
outside,
but
they
in
won't
the
be seating
winter,
inside.
not, okay.
Correct. Yep.
Would this be a good time, Elizabeth, for you to talk about the history of this building?
Sure, if you'd like me to.
Are you finished with your presentation?
So the property is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Colin here nominated it in 2008. The division conducted a site visit with the applicant back in March. We saw a lot of the challenges with that current in-building, because oftentimes our first question is, what's the alternative to demolition? And then they followed up with additional information last night, and so we weren't able to get our final comments in, but we expect that once we review that, we'll be able to get our final comments in. Unfortunately, it will be an adverse effect to the historic site. We've talked a fair amount about it in our office, and the site without the historic inn will no longer be eligible as a historic district for the National Register. There'll just be too many cumulative changes to the historic fabric and the integrity of the site. That being said, there's a limit to what you can expect. A kitchen with a 5/6 ceiling, if they were to retain the historic in-building, the changes they would need to make it meet code would also significantly damage the historic integrity of the structure. So you're kind of in that situation whether you're retaining the existing building or you're building new. Archaeologically speaking, I'm not an archaeologist, but I've talked with the folks on our project review team. The areas that are proposed for disturbance were already fairly heavily disturbed previously. They do note that there is the ruins of a few log cabins in the wooded area farther up that we don't have a lot of information about the dates of that. So any future development up in that area, we would really need to take a closer look at that time. And also if there's significant more development right up against the road, because there's an early 19th century farm that they've never identified where that house foundation was.
So that entry will be forthcoming?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, in that entry, are you going to have suggestions? I mean, I don't know if you do this, suggestions of what could be incorporated or what the department would like to see incorporated in the new building, or no?
We really appreciate that the applicant is interested in the history of the property and that there will be deconstructing and reusing elements of the historic structure in the new structure. That being said, once that main building is deconstructed, we won't be viewing it as an architecturally historic site. So we're happy to provide technical input, but it's not anything that we would require.
So, but if it's no longer an historic site, but you said that you still are interested in the log structures.
Archaeologically speaking. So architecturally is kind of
it's a different.
That's a different question because it's listed on the National Register right now for the architecture of the site. And the cultural ski lodge history of the site. But archaeologically speaking, it's not been fully investigated yet. And we're just not concerned with this particular proposal because the areas they're disturbing have already been disturbed.
I get you.
I read the National Historic Register application and found it just the whole site and just everything in it was really interesting. If you all haven't read this, it's on our database and it's and we have the author here and it's just goes right back to the land grant days and it's really well done and interesting.
And normally, in the case of the demolition of the historic site, we would be working with the applicant to talk about mitigation. And so, salvaging historic elements is always beneficial, so it's not going in the landfill. But honestly, in this situation, because the National Register nomination is so detailed and thorough, it's kind of like the mitigation has already happened. The history's been fully researched, it's been well photographed, well documented, which is why we won't be asking for additional mitigation in our final comments because of existing documentation.
That cabin is, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up in the woods.
In the woods, it's full of old ski bindings.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Any Nevada?
You're in
Could be a ski museum.
There you go, yeah. That was further up, that was the other spot.
Cemetery site.
So it's yeah.
So do you have any plans to like incorporate the photographs or that historical information in any of the new buildings?
We haven't really gotten to that level of detail. I think it's a wonderful idea because I think that especially there are generations that have been coming here, generation after generation, and to be able to share that history with the next generation and so they understand sort of where this came from and where it is today. And I think not only the historic photographs, but also some of the photographs of the process, I think would be very interesting for everybody. So I think that if we can incorporate that in the interiors, and again, we haven't gotten to that level of development yet.
There are some very famous people who've been on the site and presidents. I mean, in other projects that we've looked at where there has been a major historic element in it, there is some recognition of that history, either photographs or plaques, and it would be really important for you to include that in any of your...
A lot of that stuff was unfortunately included, so hopefully...
Well, we've got this.
Yes, we have this stuff, so we will use what we have.
So it was looted from the...
Yes, the building itself was thoroughly...
But nobody took the plates.
Oh, they did. They did come back for chafing dishes and plates as well. Yes. It's still ongoing. I think the last one was about a month ago that they came back for plates.
All the steak knives are still there.
Which one on involved with the cabins?
So those will be elevated, excavated, a walkout foundation for this sort of artisan retail on the lower level, and then those will remain as cabins. They're going to be reworked, yeah.
And so I guess to supplement, even though the whole site right now is listed as a historic district, with the loss of the inn, we're not going to be looking at the design for the remaining cabins and alterations to that because we determined that they would not be individually eligible without that main lodge.
So the whole site actually becomes not a historic site. Architecture.
Give it another 60 years.
See, maybe I'm sort of looking right now, but when I looked at the plans, it seemed that for some of the, and maybe I'm wrong, but for the rental spaces, above the artisans, is there only one entrance? And
Yes.
And that's fine with the fire code, even though there's a commercial thing underneath it?
Yeah, there'll be a fire separation between the two uses.
Okay.
And it is essentially a ground floor because of the way it's benched into the hill.
Okay.
So it does not need a second means of egress.
So as long as the windows...
As long as the windows meet
the
egress size
Okay.
windows, yeah.
Okay.
And for ADA access?
They don't need to
need
each
to
be individually
It's just the
accessible.
inn. It's the inn.
Yeah, as long as there is, as long as those services are provided on site within the business, so there will be one accessible facility.
So one rental
One
room.
of the rental spaces
Yes.
of the 9. Okay.
But all the
All
commercial.
commercial accessories.
And all the commercials will be accessible.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, so up here, the ski lot will be one ADA accessible rental unit at that location, and everything else along the retail space and restaurant, there's ADA access parking there.
We sort of strayed from age. Let's get back to that. Ramsey, was there anything else you wanted to show us as far as the other building plans for the residences besides the inn?
Well, I don't think they qualify under 8 because without the inn there.
For historic sites.
But for historic sites, I'm talking about aesthetic.
We can go through those. Yeah. So if we work from the sort of southwest to the east, we start with the Port Cottage. This is the existing Court Cottage, and this is the proposed.
And that's the one that farthest...
Farthest to the left if you're looking at the hill, correct. So this would be the retail access here, the deck access to the unit.
And the court remains, the tennis court, does that remain as an
amenity at this point? Yeah. The next one over is the butterfly. And the butterfly roof has posed serious challenges over time. It's a very challenging form in New England because you're dumping all of the water and ice to the middle of the building. So, and you can see how it's actually been built up on top of itself over time, trying to mitigate the issues there. But, so we've actually proposed a gable roof on this building. This would be the retail level here. Again, there's a side entrance into the space. Chicken coop, which has a very shallow roof currently. This is the existing chicken coop. Again, raised, increased the roof pitch to a 6 and 12, which is still a fairly shallow roof, but I think we're somewhere around 3.5, 12 here. It's very shallow. With the retail below, the deck on the side. And again, the palette on these, the material palette is very similar in tone to the existing.
So in all the cottages, the stairs to the units are external?
Correct. With mechanicals on the lower level, and there will be a powder room on the lower level for the commercial. This is the barn structure, and this is the proposed barn structure. This is the one that currently has 4 units in it, and this is what would be proposed for the retail. And this is the little coffee shop, which really, this is the existing from the street. And this is the proposed here. Right now you've got double door access to a big shed here. We would have a side entrance here. These actually would not be functioning doors there. That would be faux doors just to maintain the character. And that's it on the additional structures. Any questions on this?
E, F is one.
Question E and criterion 8, signage. We're not proposing any additional signs. We're going to continue to utilize the sign that's there today. And question F, for the lighting for the site, the parking lot area down by the warming hub, there will be a pole-mounted lighting. Those will be LED lighting, pole-mounted lights, and that will be the warm light LED. So less than the 3,000. That'll be the cutoff.
They're down.
Yes, yeah, indoor sky. Combined with night sky criteria. There'll also be some bollard lighting along the drop-off area here. So as you enter the site, you'll be able to turn the drop-off area, and that will have a walkway area into across the bridge.
Integral to the bridge, there'll be footpath lighting.
And there'll be footpath lighting as well to the restaurant. Those lights, in addition, there'll be a couple pole-mounted lights up along the parking area for the retail space. The lighting on site will be controlled either by the motion sensor lights for security and just from photo cell, because we want to maintain lights for security and safety reasons, as it still is an operational end too, even during those nighttime hours.
So you're saying in the parking lot, the lights would be on all night?
For safety, I think most of them would be on all night.
So some
may not be necessary if we maintain just the pathway, say, back and forth to the ski lot building.
Well, I know in the plans, you had a lighting plan that showed the level of lighting. No. Okay. So that's hard for me to really.
So I'll show you what that means.
How bright is this going to be?
So foot candle wise, I mean, we're required to provide a minimum amount of foot candles for safety reasons for the public use.
Okay.
You know, you can't see these numbers, but a lot of these are zeros, meaning there's no foot candle.
Okay.
So most of the foot candles are in this area. So as far as near the property line, those are at a 0 foot candle as far as brightness and projecting light over onto. There won't be any light projecting over onto the neighbor's parcel or onto Route 11.
Okay. So the lighting is all designed to go down.
Yeah, it's all. It's further you get away from the parking area, it degrades rapidly, and then you have the zeros.
Now, in the plan, and I'm sure this is a typo, but it says parking lighting will be mounted on 20 MIN high light poles.
It's 20-foot minimum high poles.
20 foot?
Yeah.
Okay.
To achieve that foot candle based on the lighting layout. And light poles are located. We try to minimize the number of light poles for a couple of different reasons, for just circulation and the infrastructure. So you have a double-headed light pole here, another one here in the side lane, a single one on this edge, another one on this edge of the parking, and again on the Route 11 side, it'll be, oops. Where do you want to go?
Just over toward Route.
Yeah, just by the road arborvitae's. So there'll be two there. So.
Same side.
And then there'll be one down by that.
The sun.
Warren. Sorry, Warren. No. And then Warren, if we could go up towards the cottages, where the retail space is, along that parking area. So we have another one here at the corner here. One here.
One up. Is that one there or no?
Where?
That's the curve.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're all along.
Similar.
They're all along the lower side of the road.
Say, run into the park.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
And they're all the same, the 20-foot high, those that
Yes,
you pointed out?
yes, yeah.
Okay, now, while we're looking at the parking lot, do you have any plans for a person to be able to plug in an electric car?
Yes, we've, it's not shown on this plan, but on the site plan, so you can see two that's up there. There's an electric car charging station, I think one's right here, kind of sharing these two spaces, and another one up at this location.
Okay, great.
Can you go to the first cottage? No, all the way to the left.
All the way to the left?
Yeah, that one.
Building up.
It's all zeros.
Just a little handicap guy in one of the corners, but I guess it wasn't this one.
No, no, there's handicap parking for the last cabin.
I see, okay. Thanks.
On that, CJ, could you just point on that where the EV stations are?
Oh, sorry, no. One's right here.
Okay,
It's a little rectangular EV building.
okay, thank you.
Next question is related to, describe the utilities, pretty much the same utilities that are there today. We will be bringing in, we'll actually be installing a new pole after discussing with Green Mountain Power, just to approximate this location, correct, Ryan? Somewhere in that location.
In that vicinity, yes.
Yeah, and then we'll be pulling underground power from there, single phase and three phase to the transformer, two transformers on site. And that also will be the same path for the telecom, your cable.
And the propane tanks were
There's a propane tank that's located here, and most likely be locating the propane tank back here, or potentially in this area to serve this building.
The restaurant and 3 cabins will be connected. No, there's one tank up here right now that serves this building, and in the future will serve the barn as well. And then the one will be, or I guess the 100-gallon size would be placed behind the coffee shop. That will be individually served, and then there'll be one for the restaurant, perhaps one underground for the other cabins.
So does that show on the plans?
No, that's not the
Can you add those?
The reason why we're kind of debating between underground or above ground is just we don't know what, again, the ledge, what we're going to run into or will communicate that.
Is there any plans to have any PV panels on anything?
Not at the moment. It's something that we're thinking about, but that's at this moment in time, no.
Moving on to the next question. We talked a lot about the landscaping already earlier, but yeah, the room of arborvitae's here. We ideally want to maintain these grass islands, planted islands. This may not become a planted island. We'll have to look at it some more, just because it will be an island, whether it's a paved island, a raised paved island, like maybe a concrete with stamped in concrete, kind of like trying to match close to it, the stone of the building, something like that. But just for turning radiuses and stuff like that, that may not be just an independent, non-traversable island. I think we'll have to be able to traverse that with a larger truck if necessary.
Need any trees for shade on that property?
No, we haven't proposed any, other than the arborvitae's that's be screening the parking. It's We have to be careful about how much we can plant in here to begin with, just because of our vehicular movements and so if we're bringing in a truck that needs to come in the site, make a turn, and then back into the loading dock that's loaded here, that's depressed 4 feet lower than the parking lot. And then the truck can then turn and maneuver at the site. So we'll have to look at where we can plant things, but as of right now, just grass islands.
Trying to keep the parking as tight as possible, just to not impact more of the site, additional parking, so that's less than the turn radius, radii, really tight.
I have a question. Because you noted the elevation of the parking lot makes it, not very prominent to start with. I was wondering if instead of just a row of arborvitae, that would be a place where you could place plant some landscape trees instead of everybody or something.
Yeah, there's certainly some opportunity there because there'll be an embankment right here. Instead of creating this like in town.
When I see a row of arborvitae, I say, there's a parking lot there.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
There's the current landscaping that is against the current building and trees. We will see if we can maintain those once we get to the phase of removing the old building. We'll have whatever can be salvaged, removed or replanted in a different location.
Because really, as far as the parking lot area, this is the only area that we can, as far as for screening, locate in the trees. So that's a great suggestion. And I already talked about the cascading water feature. There were the multiple waterfalls in the pond, and then I don't think you're really going to have to plant any wetlands. I think they'll just naturally get grow around there, but standing water. So the idea is we want that to feel as natural as possible. Like it's a pond that's been there for a while. Is there any other questions related to landscaping? So moving on, we already talked about the historical site. The next 3-4 questions were regarding under criterion 8A, wildlife and endangered species.
Just stone walls, foundations, or ruins. You said that you'd be using some of the marble for walkways.
Yeah, if you notice the marble walkway stairs that are going to the Seesaw restaurant now, big slabs of marble, and that's one of the items that we're looking to repurpose, reutilize, integrate into the landscaping, potentially down here on this walking path, the one yeah, as far as criterion 8, everything that we're proposing has already been previously disturbed at one time or another. So we're just redeveloping on something that has been developed on previously. Criterion 9A, impact and growth. Again, redevelopment project, it's been here, the existing, as it sits today, it's probably been that way since, I want to guess, 1950s, 1960s time period.
I'm sorry?
What's there today has been that way since probably the 1950s, 1960s.
Well, I mean, when was the original building?
No, what we see there today as far as how the building's configured, everything that's on site today.
Well, it was added on by old farms. It was added on a bit here and a bit there from 1938 on through the mid 19th. Essentially, unchanged since the mid-1950s. But there were, like the Butterfly Cottage, for example, was built in the early 1950s. And the Courthouse Cottage was probably built in the late 1940s.
So again, we believe this is a positive impact for tourism, just a positive impact of the town. Just trying to breathe some life back into what once was John's Seesaws. As it has been so famously documented in historical records, and everybody locally enjoyed going there. And I heard the steak was amazing. I never got a chance to actually get a steak there. Yeah, that's what we're after. That's what we're trying to recreate as much as we can. And, as far as tax revenues, estimated for a property tax for the town is estimated to be about $10,000. And as far as the rooms and meals tax revenue, we're projecting between $30,000 and $50,000 annually. And estimating as far as employees, between 10 and 15 employees. In addition to the jobs created during the construction phase. Criteria 9B, this is related to primary agricultural soils. Our project does involve earth disturbance, but there are no primary agricultural soils on site. Again, a lot of this, almost, I would say 70% of this entire site has been disturbed at one time. It's not located in a designated downtown growth center. The current landowner does not control the neighboring properties for development or subdivision. The remaining questions regarding H9, that's no. It's again, back to primary agricultural soils and mitigation. There's no primary agriculturals on site. Criteria 9C, it's productive forest soils, and there are no productive forest soils on site. Criterion 9D and 9E, that's earth resources. We're going to utilize whatever resources are on the site now for landscaping and topsoil. We'll reutilize that, and any other suitable material for perhaps subgrade for a parking lot and driveways, if it's suitable. But no, there's really not a lot of earth resources being used. Criteria 9F, this is energy conservation. We will adhere to the commercial building and energy standard for this project. For not only the commercial portions of the project, but also the residential portions. Criteria 9G, private utilities. Indicate whether the project involves any private utilities, roadway, water, sewer, stormwater. I think we've discussed that. We do have private utilities on site, some private utilities off site, water on site, wastewater on site and off site, and we're redoing the underground electrical, overhead electrical. We're going to put that all underground. Propane lines, all that will be new infrastructure, new utilities.
Can we back up just for a second back to the energy efficiency? And have you given any thought to sort of the renewable ready thought? In other words, you said that you don't have any solar planning now, but are you building in such a way that you could put panels on the roof in the future?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes.
Especially the standing seam, the application of panels is very simple. It just clamps onto that. that raises some.
Yeah, back to that criteria for just a second. Just want to make a comment. Ron actually reached out some time ago on researching with someone that was an expert in the field of energy efficiency, building construction, and whatnot. So, they were evaluating on that at the time, heating efficiency, things like that nature. So,
Any geothermal in this area? This part of the?
I've been involved with a couple of geothermal projects, and what we found is that you have an efficient building envelope, a high-performance building envelope. It doesn't make sense. The cost to do the geothermal, the issues that we've had a lot of issues with our systems, maintaining the systems, with a very efficient building envelope. The actual amount of energy used to heat them and cool them has been so low. We found that the trade-off just isn't there for geothermal at this point.
But geothermal is actually in Bennington County in general is actually pretty good relative to the rest of Vermont. But most of the best geothermal sites are down in the valley where the soils are more conducive than they are up here. Like it's probably the only place you might think about doing it is sucking the heat out of that pond or something, or at least freeze it for your ice skating to be sure. But yeah, I think that probably what they've done with the air source heat pumps is really a pretty good solution here.
yeah, did you probably refer to the veterans home downtown? I think they're on
yeah, there's a few of the state buildings and then you've got the building.
Yeah.
Which are ground
Ground
source.
Ground source.
Yeah, large rock before on the file.
Gotta ask the question.
Sure. Okay, public utilities. There's already utilities there on site. Again, the three-phase, single-phase powers are already there on site. We're running by the site. And we'll just be just installing that one additional utility pole. And the project won't place an excessive or economic demand on the majority of the buildings in operation that were previously in existence. Solid waste and recycling services, those will be handled by whether it's CAM or Casella or any other waste hauler.
Because the food waste needs to be composted now, right? Correct, from a commercial restaurant?
I'm not sure.
I believe it does.
The answer is yes.
So that, and well, you said that the distillery byproduct would be repurposed to agriculture or something, or composted, one or the other. Right?
So on the plans, does it, I know you haven't gotten that detailed plans, but on the plans it should show at some point the ability to compost the food waste and so on. I mean, that should be in on the kitchen plan.
Well, you have that, I think you specified that you could do that behind the horse barn, correct?
It's just separate dumpster.
Yeah, you just need a dumpster that is designated.
The transfer station in Londonderry, which is what the people, the residents in the town of Peru utilize, they do have that service available, the composting bins there. So if you need, you could take your compost to the transfer station in Londonderry.
Okay. On to criteria 9K, public investments. Listing the adjacent government, public utility facilities, services, and lands, including highways, airports, waste disposal facilities, buildings, fire, police stations, so on and so forth. All public services and facilities. The only public facility here is the Vermont State Route 11 highway. And how will the project affect any such adjacent property? Again, we're recommending through trans, but there's no undue or unnecessary impact to that public highway. Criteria 9L, settlement patterns. Again, site's been here historical, we've talked about that. We're just redeveloping something that was already developed once before. Again, the proposed restaurant being built right on the old pool location. And we're maintaining the rest of the site really as redeveloping any of the rest of the site as far as siting the buildings. We've got one additional cottage that will be relocated, and that's it as far as maintaining that. What's there today, the building locations. We covered 9. Criterion 10, the local and regional plans. This project is, again, been here for a very long time. It is a pre-existing non-conforming use as far as the town of Peru zoning bylaws state. We've already gone to the town, to the zoning board of adjustments, and received our approvals in addition to the town planning commission for the project.
So this is what residential? It's what is it, roadside?
It's interesting because there's only really how many sites here in town are actually commercial. And one is Bromley Market up here, which is also residential. Maybe that is commercial, but I think it's still residential. I think Bromley itself is, I think, the cutoff line.
Bromley Mountain ski area.
Yeah. So it's just something that's been here for so long, and it's been commercial for so long. It's not captured in the bylaws, but
yeah. So you had to get a variance?
Yes. Well, we had yes, essentially for the use, continue that use, for the relocation of this building. And the additional use, which is the retail portion.
Right, that's a change.
Was a change. Yeah. And the crafts.
Jim, do you have anything to add?
Well, first of all, I don't, probably, and I can't speak for the town, the question about variance is just like a continuation and expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use. You can't really do a use variance. That doesn't have anything to do with regional plan. But, so as far as the regional plan goes, the project certainly seems to be consistent, compatible with the regional plan. I just wanted to point out a couple things. One, the application talks about it being in a rural residential 5-acre district. We don't have a district like that. We have a rural district, which is a low-density district that accommodates a variety of different uses. And in this case, in generally talks about commercial uses being really only in fairly specific places. There's specific under specific circumstances in the rural district. Because most of the commercial development, we try to direct toward village centers and hamlets, like the Peru Village Center, for example. But this is obviously a redevelopment of a historic village site, and it also is. I think the last time I was in an Act 250, I was talking about the Hill Farm Inn in Sunderland, which is kind of a similar case. It's in a rural district, but it's a kind of a certain class of use of lodging and country inn restaurant type of use that in properly planned and designed is appropriate in the rural district. So as far as the land use plan, the regional plan, it doesn't fit really cleanly into any slot, but it definitely is compatible with the rural district. I think especially given the proximity to the Brown Mountain ski development area. And the only thing I wanted to point out is a minor point, but As far as the retail aspect of this go, the artisan retail, I think that's, consistent with the rest of this theme type development, but I do think that the commission thinks that the permit should be pretty clear about the nature and location and extent of the retail, so that some years down the line, a new property owner doesn't come in and decide that there's a pre-existing primary retail and propose to redevelop the site as retail. I know it's nothing that you guys have planned, but that's something that would definitely not be consistent with the regional plan. So we just want to be as clear as we can about the nature and extent of the retail.
Do you mean, like, say a future owner wanted to get rid of the restaurant and make it all retail? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you were talking about that or... Yeah.
And you're putting the type of retail as well.
Yeah.
And during our discussion of the permitting phase of the town, that was brought up, and we provided them a list exactly. These are the artisan type of retail uses that we may or may not use. I was working with John,
Okay.
zoning administrator on that list.
So in your town permit, it limits it to artisan retail or no?
I don't know if it says that per se, but it was in the documents that we provided.
Okay.
You're all done?
Yes.
Are there any other outstanding issues that anyone would like to raise? Well, the hearing is now in recess, and we will be awaiting the submittal of additional entries from a number of agencies and from the applicant. And you'll be hearing from us. In the meantime, Warren is the person to contact if you have questions. And I want to thank everybody for coming and for their participation.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't know it was off. Turn it off. Yeah.